We would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional owners of the lands on which this podcast is recorded. We pay our respects to the elders and their descendants who continue in a long tradition of cultural and spiritual connections to country since time immemorial. We acknowledge the First Peoples and their continuing custodianship of the lands on which we work and live. We recognise their struggle and honour their contributions to current and future generations. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Welcome to the Reconnection Revolution. I'm your host, Celeste Halliday. In a world that often encourages us to play safe and stay small, we go deep and explore the big questions, the daily joys and chaos of life, and everything in between. Our goal? To help you find your spark if you feel like it's been dimmed, and ignite you if you're ready to create a reconnection revolution in your own life. Wherever you're at right now, I'm so glad that you're here with us. Today we're talking all about peopling and how our peopling is plummeting. I don't know if you have noticed this either in yourself or with the people you work with or even the people in your family, but we are losing our ability to people, to build genuine, deep, authentic, two-way connections. And some of that does come down to the pandemic and people being locked away in their houses and having a very small circle of people around them to interact with. A lot of our interactions were online, so we got used to connecting online but not really fully showing up and being present. Even the rules about how we were online changed radically in the periods of the lockdowns. So whilst at the start, I can remember we were still all in our work clothes on top with our tracksuit pants below, over time, those rules even changed and we became very casual. You know, we saw into each other's living rooms and bedrooms in a way that we never would have with people that we worked with. So the lines between personal and professional became really blurred. And some of the skill that many of us developed as a key part of how we showed up at work and how we became successful, those skills started to really deteriorate and I would say even atrophy in many cases. And even I find myself, you know, talking about connection constantly and being obsessed really with the way that we connect and how we connect. I absolutely find myself more reluctant to go into social situations than I did prior to COVID happening. I think some of those things are a bit like a muscle and we've stopped using all the muscles in all the ways and we kind of need to go back to humaning gym, not gym. Actually, I was at the gym this morning when peopling came up, and we were talking about Soul Cycle, that incredible craze that swept the world really, where exercise was combined with spirituality and community. And people came together to get an endorphin high, but really to connect with themselves, connect with their bodies, connect with other people. And interestingly, after the huge success that was and continues to be, the founders have now gone on to create an entirely new offering in New York. And it's called Peoplehood, a little bit like neighborhood. And the whole point is to have a lovely venue where people can come and pay to have conversations and to be taught the skills of peopling. There's definitely a generational lens to this. So we know that the research is saying that the 18 to 25-year-old age range have about 40% less empathy than my age range would have at the same time. And it's not something deficient in them, it's a skill that they haven't been taught. You think about the number of hours that we spent because we didn't have devices in face-to-face conversation. I was talking to somebody in the team today about breakfasts. And in my lifetime, it was normal for us all to sit around the breakfast table and talk before we went to work and school. You would set the table and have breakfast together. And now we're lucky to have dinner together, let alone breakfast. So a lot of those small social interactions that you might have within a family environment, but definitely within a social and work environment, they're not there anymore. And a lot of the smaller skills inside, the peopling, are what we've lost. So I know I've spoken before about my boys, and one of my boys, you know, at the start of school, as often happens, there's a bit of a sorting out of who's who and who's going to be friends with who, and everyone's kind of learning the social rules. And these kids, they'd spent 2 years in lockdown, and they're suddenly in high school, and they haven't had the social development that so many of their older generations would have had. So they didn't really know how to connect, and some of them were pretty socially immature as well. And I can remember seeing one of my sons talking to one of his friends, and his friend was kind of shrugging him off. I think he might have put his hand on his arm to talk to him while he was talking to him, and his friend shrugged him off. And I thought, I wonder what that's about. I wonder what he's doing wrong. Is it he speaks loudly, or he's in his face too much? And I realised, because I watched it a few more times, that what was happening was my son was making eye contact. And the other kid thought it was weird. And he said to him, "You're being really intense." And I'm seeing that more and more now in younger generations, that eye contact when we speak with each other is seen as being intense, too much in your face. Just calm it down. We're used to having distracted attention, not that really focused, present, fully with you attention. That's the basis of human connection. So a lot of research is coming out through brain imaging, where we can actually look at what happens between two people's brains and bodies when they genuinely connect with one another. And you can imagine I totally geek out on this stuff. And without deep diving into it too much, there is absolutely a synchrony that happens between people's brains and their heartbeats and their nervous systems and their bodies, but that's a whole other episode, but definitely between their brains. And the way that it happens is through the eyes. It's through eye contact, because really eyeballs are kind of like bits of our brains on stalks on the outside. It's the closest thing to our brain being where we can see it. And we connect. We've learnt to connect from the time we were babies with our caregivers. When we needed attention, when we needed reassurance, what did our caregivers hopefully do for us? They looked right in our eyes, they reassured us, they gave us touch, and our nervous system and heartbeat synced with theirs. And if they were calm, we were calm. And if they were stressed, we would get stressed. And so it goes in our relationships now. But if you've never been taught the skill of eye contact and all the other smaller parts of how to genuinely connect with another person, then it's going to be pretty awkward. Because a key part of connecting is being aware of yourself and your own thoughts, but being fully physically present with the other person, which means that instead of just attention in, what do I want? What am I thinking? We're attention out. What do they want? What are they thinking? How are they? What am I sensing beneath their words? What are they really saying? We know that what we used to call body language is the biggest chunk of how people communicate, much more than words or even tone of voice. But I think the science that's coming through now is it's not just body language, it's like a full body synchrony. And if you've never been taught to have that, or there's been a large gap between where you might have had that when you're an infant, but you're now a functioning adult or teenager, then it's going to seem very unnatural to you. And you're just going to think, I'm not good at it. And we know that with the loneliness epidemic raging around the world and 1 in 2 people lonely, it's not because there's anything wrong with them. But part of what loneliness does to us is it makes us feel socially rejected. And when we're socially rejected, we tend to withdraw even further and we become emotionally reactive. So if you do go out somewhere and interact socially, you might be hypersensitive to how people are responding to you, emotionally brittle, very reactive. And that's going to make you not a lot of fun to be around. And so the cycle goes and you become more withdrawn and more lonely. So I think there is a total place for reteaching people skills, and we're definitely going to be focusing on it in our business. In fact, we already are in the leadership courses that we run, because even the most senior, seasoned leaders in many cases have lost some of those nuanced people skills. There's a phrase that we teach all the time and everyone loves it. It came out of the NHS in London, where they were trying to teach surgeons bedside manner, humanity, how to connect. And the phrase they used to teach them to really connect with their patients was to listen with fascination. Because the whole demeanour of listening with fascination is hanging on somebody's every word, fully present with your own internal monkey chatter noise down, and really tuning in to who they are, how they are, what they're needing and what they're saying. So if you take nothing else from this episode, then start to just raise your awareness to maybe you feeling a little awkward with your people skills, because I know I have been and I've had to really retune into that, but also to start noticing it in your workplaces and your families, and being more aware that it's really not an indictment on you or how somebody feels about you. It's often a lack of skill and a level of discomfort with themselves. So if you do one thing as a result of this podcast, it's to try to really be present with other people, attention out, and to listen to them with fascination, because that is going to create an incredibly positive ripple, not just with that person, but really spreading out around them. They'll replay it with others and so on. You can be part of the change that we all seek. Thank you so much for taking your precious time to sit with me today and listen, and hopefully it's given you something that you can take out into the world to make your social situations just run that much more smoothly, and to feel that you are maybe a bit less lonely and contributing to other people feeling more connected too. Thank you for joining us on the Reconnection Revolution. We hope today's episode has ignited a spark within you, reminding you of the power of genuine connection. As we wrap up, remember that your support means the world to us. To stay connected with our vibrant community and never miss an episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you've found value in our conversations and stories, we would love to hear from you. Please leave us a review and let us know what you loved, what you hated, what you want more of, so that we can empower and inspire more people just like you. Until next time, keep curious, keep questing, keep connecting, and remember, we really are all in this together.